Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're plunging headfirst into a book that might just have some of the simplest yet most profound advice written in the last 30 years.
Don Miguel Ruiz, The Four Agreements.
Exactly. And our mission today is to take this work, which is rooted in ancient Toltec wisdom, and really distill it into something clear, something you can use.
Right.
We want to give you the shortcut to understanding not just what the rules are, but why they still hit so hard in the modern world.
It's a fascinating text. It
Yeah.
really is. Because it kind of blends this spiritual philosophy with psychological healing. And that makes it so accessible.
Promises personal freedom.
That's
maybe.
the core of it, yeah.
Yeah.
It argues that a peaceful life isn't about controlling the world out there. It's about mastering a few key internal principles.
But before we can even get to the agreements, we have to understand the problem Ruiz says we're all facing. He says we're living under this self-imposed tyranny.
Yeah.
Tyranny built from countless agreements we've made without even realizing it.
Absolutely. And these aren't, contracts you consciously sign. These are rules that were programmed into us from the moment we were born.
By who? Parents, society.
Parents, schools, culture, media, all of it. They form what he calls the dream of the world.
A dream of the world.
Yeah, it's a system of beliefs about who we are, what's right, what we have to do to be worthy. And once we accept them without question, they become the source of all our suffering.
So we're essentially walking around with an operating system that was installed in childhood, and now it's just full of bugs.
That's a great way to put it. It's an old OS telling us we're not good enough, or we have to suffer in silence, or that we deserve judgment.
Okay.
Precisely. And Ruiz has this really powerful term for how this happens: domestication.
That's a jarring word.
It is, but it perfectly illustrates the process, the way society molds us. But what's so freeing about this idea is that it removes the blame. You didn't choose this. It happened to you.
I see. So these limiting beliefs are like external installations, not like fundamental flaws in who we are.
Exactly. And that reframing is key. If you understand you were programmed, you realize you have the power to step back, look at the code, and start rewriting the most damaging parts.
And that transformation starts with the first agreement. The one he says is the hardest, but also the most important.
The very first one.
Okay, let's unpack this one then. Agreement 1, be impeccable with your word. Now, when people hear this, they probably just think it means don't lie.
Right.
But he takes it so much further than that, doesn't he?
He really does. The word impeccable comes from Latin, meaning without sin.
Without sin.
So in this context, it means using your energy, your word, cleanly, effectively, and aligned with truth. Your word is a creative force. When you use it against yourself, that's what he calls black magic. It's just destructive self-talk.
And this is where it immediately clicks with modern psychology, right? The self-talk part is almost a one-to-one match with cognitive restructuring from CBT.
It's a foundational similarity. I mean, CBT is all about identifying and challenging those messed up thought patterns. Ruiz just wraps it in a spiritual context.
Yeah.
Your words literally create your internal reality.
So if your inner monologue is constantly, I'm a disaster, or I always mess this up.
You're using your most powerful creative tool language to sabotage yourself.
So how do you actually practice this? I mean, these patterns are ingrained. It's so hard to just stop that inner critic.
It takes vigilance, a lot of it. The practical step is to pause before you speak or even think and ask, is this kind? Is it necessary? Is it true? It means policing not just gossip about others, which he calls spreading emotional poison, but especially what you say about yourself. Just changing I can't to I haven't figured this out yet is a huge application of this agreement.
That makes perfect sense. So if the first agreement is about cleaning up your internal world, the second one is like the shield you use against the outside world.
That's a great way to put it, a shield. Agreement 2, don't take anything personally. This is the one people often find the most liberating.
But it's also the trickiest, maybe.
It can be, and we should definitely talk about its limits later. But the core idea is pretty radical.
That nothing anyone else does is actually about you.
Exactly. It's always a reflection of their world, their agreements, their fears, their movie.
The movie, right?
So when someone gives you harsh criticism or even over-the-top praise, they're just projecting their own internal script onto you. If you accept it, you're agreeing to carry their emotional stuff.
So if I get this right, the moment their judgment hits you and you have that emotional reaction, you've just given away your power.
You've given it away. You're letting their domestication define your worth. The practice is to pause when you feel that trigger and just acknowledge, this isn't about me. This is about their world.
Okay. Here's where it gets really interesting, though. How do you tell the difference between taking something personally, which is bad, and, getting useful feedback? Or even recognizing when someone's crossing a boundary?
That's the crucial nuance, isn't it?
Yeah.
This raises an important question. The agreement is a shield against judgment and projection. It is not a prescription to just ignore everything. If the input is objective about your performance, you can process that.
So if a boss says you were late for the meeting, that's a fact. You can act on that. But if
Well,
they say you're lazy and you don't care, that's a judgment. That's their story.
that's their story. And that's where you put up the shield. It's a filter, not a muzzle, on all feedback. It's about letting go of the need to defend yourself against their narrative.
Okay, that makes more sense. So moving on, we shift from our internal world to our relationships, which brings us to agreement 3. Don't make assumptions.
The great drama killer.
Ah, I like that.
Ruiz says assumptions are the main source of conflict and pain in relationships. We fill in the gaps with stories that are usually not true.
It's such a human thing to do, though. We hate an information vacuum, so we invent a story, usually a negative one based on our own fears.
Oh, absolutely. We assume we know why a text wasn't returned or why a coworker seemed distant.
And this connects back to cognitive science, too.
It does. We're talking about cognitive biases here,
Yeah.
like the fundamental attribution error, where we assume someone's behavior is about their character. They're rude instead of their circumstances. They just got bad news. We assume intent without any data.
So the big insight here is that assumptions only survive when we don't ask questions. The minute you seek clarity, the whole made-up story just, poof, it dissolves.
A simple example is so useful here. Let's say your boss is short with you. The old agreement has you thinking, they hate my project, I'm going to get fired.
Right, instant panic.
The new agreement says you just ask, hey, I noticed you seem stressed. Is there anything I should know about the project, or is it something else? One question can prevent a whole day of anxiety.
It seems like these first 3 agreements all require a lot of active energy, a lot of presence, which I guess leads perfectly into the last one.
The final binding agreement, Agreement 4, always do your best.
Now, at first glance, this sounds like a trap, like it could lead you right back into perfectionism.
It really does sound that way, but the Toltec definition of best is completely different.
It's not about a fixed standard, it's about effort in the moment, and that effort is fluid. It changes.
That's it, exactly.
Yeah.
Ruiz makes it very clear that your best is always changing. Your best on a Monday morning when you're rested is totally different from your best on a Friday afternoon when you're sick and tired.
Ah, so the agreement is just to give sincere effort in your current context, and that's it.
And nothing more. That fluidity is the key to self-compassion. The goal isn't perfection, which is impossible. The goal is just action without self-judgment. If you've done your best, whatever that looked like today, there's no room for regret.
It creates that inner peace everyone's looking for. You stop measuring yourself against some arbitrary standard or even against who you were yesterday. You just accept that today, this was what I had to give, and that's enough.
Exactly.
So now that we've gone through all 4, let's kind of synthesize this. What makes this blend of ancient wisdom and modern psychology so sticky?
It's the accessibility. I mean, the language is Toltec, but the framework clicks so well with things like CBT, as we said. They're basically 4 simple mental shortcuts, heuristics, that you can use to immediately interrupt negative thought cycles.
So for you, the listener, trying to get a quick but deep understanding, what are the big strengths here?
First, they're just so memorable you can recall them in a stressful moment.
Right.
Second, they're instantly actionable. And maybe the biggest thing is that people often find that just applying one of them, usually not taking things personally, brings immediate relief.
It's like a rapid transformation guide.
It is.
But a real deep dive has to look at the other side too, the critiques. Because a system this simple has to have limitations.
Absolutely. And the biggest critique is the risk of oversimplification. These are amazing guides for daily life, but they're not a replacement for deep psychological work. You can't just tell someone with severe trauma or depression to change their agreement. It can feel really dismissive.
And, like we touched on before, that don't take anything personally. Rule can be dangerous if you don't apply it with nuance.
That is such a vital point. There's a huge difference between feeling offended, which is about their reality, and feeling violated, which is an attack on your rights.
Yeah.
If you just apply agreement 2 when someone is being consistently abusive or disrespectful, you risk just accepting it. In cases of gaslighting or manipulation, ignoring the offense is actually harmful.
So the nuanced approach is what, a two-step
I
process?
think so. Step one is you set the boundary. You say, what you did is not acceptable to me.
Okay.
Then, once your boundary is protected, step two is you let go of the emotional baggage of why they did it. You see that part as their issue, not yours.
So it's boundary first, then non-internalization.
That makes the agreement both powerful and safe. We also see critiques about the, um, the authenticity of the Toltec framing. Some scholars question if Ruiz sort of repackaged ancient wisdom for a modern self-help audience.
But does that really matter if the principles work?
Well, that's the debate. But I'd say the utility of the ideas stands on its own, regardless of their exact origin.
So the final verdict is pretty clear. Use them as daily tools, but don't mistake them for a total solution for deep-seated issues.
That's the concise conclusion. So what does this all mean? It's a powerful, accessible guide for reframing your thoughts and finding inner peace, especially if you're looking for simple, daily practices.
And to bring this home with a real-world example, it's interesting to see who uses this. Drew Carey, the comedian and TV host, has talked a lot about how he rereads the book constantly.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah, he says he uses the agreements to maintain his perspective in mental health while dealing with constant public criticism. I mean, talk about an environment where it's easy to take things personally.
It just proves how practical they are for building resilience. The four agreements really just hands you the instruction manual for taking back your peace of mind. It shows you how to manage the only two things you can actually control.
Your intention and your response.
Exactly.
So, what does this all mean for you, the listener, as you think about this deep dive? If the whole goal is freedom from that domestication, from those limiting beliefs, we want to leave you with a provocative thought. Think about one of your core limiting agreements, something you've carried since childhood that says you're not worthy or you can't succeed. Which one of those unconscious agreements would you choose to break first?
And on the other side of that,
Yeah, which of the four replacement agreements, being impeccable with your word, not taking things personally, not making assumptions, or always doing your best, or which one do you think would be the absolute hardest for you to put into practice starting today? Something to think about as you start that process of rewriting your own contract with the world.